Ah, Salutations, class. I hope I haven't started my introduction too early. I'm still waiting for the stream feed to come in. There we go. Alright, we have another week beginning here. I'm hoping we have a very thick week of streaming ahead of us. Going to be trying a lot of games, some new ones, some old. But I look forward to seeing you on the few nights that we have together. I've also been talking to a lot more people, and I'm hoping we could possibly get some collaboration streams in the next coming weeks. But for now... Is that the wrong button? There we go. Now it's visible. But for now, we're going to be playing my absolute favorite game of all time. One that I've been very fond of. Don't know why there's a continue button. I shouldn't have started this yet. Let's go for changing out the save file then. Ah, it's still running over with the duplicate from when I was doing experiments earlier. Very well. Now we start fresh. Everything ready to go. The somewhat visceral intro we have to the game. A lot of people who wouldn't be expecting it would definitely squick at the idea. We start with our own personal rusty sword here. Aren't you the headless fellow that's been getting around? What's the matter? Cat got you tongue? Ah, yes, that's right. No tongue. Anyway, it must be strange to be back from the dead. I mean, surely you must have noticed. You can no longer die. I don't really understand it. But you're not the first to find yourself in this situation, if that's what you want to know. Look at our little boy, he's so confused. I would be about my predicaments as well. I know this game has Twitch integration, so let me know if you'd like me to see... Oh, hello Mark. Welcome. Hope you're ready for Dead Cells. You said that fighting games weren't your forte, but what about roguelikes in general? Let me know what you'd like to see, if you'd like to see a bow or a shield. While you make that decision... Ah, hello Caleb. Welcome back. I'm glad to see both of you. This game has Twitch integration, and I'm curious if you would like to see me showing up on Twitch more often, which does seem to have a bit more presence with streaming integration. Noida has a similar feature as well. So I'm considering trying to stream on both channels, or if you would like to see me on Twitch instead, I can definitely move there. Let me know what you want to see, but for now, I think I'll just go with the bow. I'm more fond of shields personally, but getting out of my comfort zone would be a much better way to start here. Now, this is my absolute favorite game of all time. And of course, I can't say I love this game without also knowing that I've beaten it on 5BC before, for those of you who do know anything about this game. So here, tonight, we're going to give ourselves a little challenge. I'm going to hopefully see if I can get through the first run here on a single life. This is a roguelike, so it's expected for you to die over and over and over again. We're going to defy the rules set before us. And I'm going to make it a little bit more interesting by using the weapons I'm not so accustomed to. And with so few power-ups to be found yet. I think right here we get to prioritize a brutality run. Each of the different stats here determines a different type of weapon you specialize in. Red is mostly for melee combat. Purple tactics is mostly for ranged combat with bows or turrets. Green survival is mostly for melee combat but with slower and more durable weapons. It also focuses on shields. But here I think we'll go with the classic brutality. It's the most interesting to watch, at least. It was this game specifically that made me interested in learning about roguelike dungeon generation. And specifically, I've tried to program it a few times in the past, to mixed results. Of course, anyone who's coded will tell you that you'll need to be spending a lot of time doing bug fixes and refining to make sure it works right. I've had plenty of dungeons that would generate with holes, or dungeons that would generate with an exit room. So you have to run a very robust system of checks in order to make sure that nothing goes wrong. Even then, it's happened a few times in this game that I've seen. A certain seed, no matter how much you play with it, will not generate a map. Usually it recycles the seed from there instead. We found our first little pickup skill. The wolf trap will lock enemies in place for us to attack. We can't use that yet, so unfortunately we cannot pass through that route. We'll travel over here and we'll give this guy a few slices. Same with over here. This game is a lot slower than those. Turn down the game volume, alright. Or I could possibly just turn the gain up on the mic. See if that's a little bit louder for you. Checking my parameters, and that should be doing a lot better for you. Let me know. Why not? I'll mess with the game volume settings a little. Lower that a little bit. Check my audio parameters on the side, and about here should do us some justice. Let me know any further changes I need to make. We can't use that carrot because we haven't even been hit. I think that's everywhere we're able to go for the moment. So this game will generate you a different dungeon every single time you start up a new file. Oh, I'm gonna use that bomb. I'm a bit used to my upgrades. Normally you're able to wall jump if you have the power up for it. Ah, what a shame I picked that ice grenade. This one will do a lot better for us. Guess we'll have to make do with that bit of money that we've lost. We can't use that little shrub either, so we only have one option to move through now. Let's go through the promenade of the condemned. Interesting and equally edgy choice of a name for a zone. Now we have a few more upgrades here, but we'd like to look at our abilities and see which of them synchronize. Our infantry grenade over there does extra damage to a burning target, so we're going to swap out our bow with a firebrand. Still need to be slightly louder. How does that work for you? I'm still having to reconfigure a lot of my devices, so my volume will be sporadic for the next few weeks. Or maybe just for this 1 week. I'm still needing to get a permanent stand for this microphone. Right now it's sort of off to the side. Bit of a haphazard positioning. But I will be experimenting a lot with my audio and visuals in the future soon. Hello there, I'm the Collector, and I'm the closest thing you'll find to decent company around here. Bring me the cells you gather from the others. In exchange, I'll procure a few useful items for you. Should you stumble upon a blueprint, bring it to me and I will introduce you to some more experimental items. So, this guy is where we go to unlock our stuff. But in order to get a lot of those things, we need to just go through there first. And now we should be able to purchase a few other things. I'm going to start investing in that second charge of a health flask. This guy we talked to change our upgrades, which will be stat effects on us. Each of these will determine slightly different playstyles for us. But for now... I think combo will do just fine. That gives us a damage bonus every time we KO an enemy, so we'll be able to get through realms a lot quicker. Noted, Mark. I'm personally a lot more fond of YouTube's culture than Twitch's streamer culture. That's why I'm here instead, even though, for what I know, Twitch is a lot more popular in the West. Sort of gutting my potential to grow more followers, but if anyone's going to be a tryhard, it's going to be me. We've unfortunately already hit our first obstacle due to a mistake in my jumping patterns. The Promenade of the Condemned here is a bit of a problem for us. You'll see those statues everywhere that look like target dummies. They actually protect the enemies around them. We'll dodge his attack, spin right behind him, and do the same to this guy. Now, our firebrands aren't going to ignite them while they're standing in the water. Just some simple fire grenades for us, and they seem to be doing a lot of damage for us so far. I noticed it, might as well. You see this rose here? This rose only grows in a very specific part of the level, and only once. It's actually a key you can pick up. Now, the shield you see coming off of these guys prevents enemies from taking any damage whatsoever, so usually we have to prioritize those statues first. Get you ignited as well. Oh, we've already found a weapon. Spartan Sandals, which gives a kick that has knockback behind it. If there's any weapons you'd like me to unlock specifically, let me know. Otherwise, I'll be going down what I think would be the optimized route. Here is where we'll need 2 more Gardener's Keys. I don't know if we'll be able to find all of them so soon. I'm considering possibly simulcasting to both Twitch and YouTube, but I need to see if that violates any of them and their terms of service. Yeah, the rose really blends in with the background, and that's why it's a secret item for you to find. The Balance Blade is generally the better version of the Rusty Sword, so no question, we'll take that. It's also one of the items unlocked from the beginning of the game. Now, we can't move forward from this point. We have the little plant here that we can't interact with. So I'm going to open this door and head through here. And here we have a short mini-boss fight. But I also brought the wolf traps. So that's going to lock him facing in one direction and make him a lot easier to take down. And here we have the Vine Rune. That will allow us to interact with those plants. As it is in Metroidvanias, you pick up a variety of upgrades as you get better at the game, and get further along. Those runes are permanent even after we die. The weapons you find, however, will change. Ah, yes, right up there is another Gardener's Key, but unfortunately we can't take that one. We don't have a wall jump yet. So I suppose I'll have to skip on that secret item for now. That's the only way you get up and in there. The Balanced Blade will start dealing critical hits as we start landing more consecutive attacks on enemies. So as long as he can keep attacking, it's very useful. This guy will be a mini-boss who is apparently invisible. But he's also not a hassle for us. None of these enemies will be. This is the route that we also can't take yet. This also requires the wall jump, which we don't have. We'll be finding them soon, though. I'll be trying to take every specific route that we need to get all of our movement upgrades as quickly as possible. Toss another one of those and cut this guy. Oh, you see that? It's subtle, but if you look right here at this room, they highlight themselves when you get close. From here we have a short challenge room, and a guy who's going to appear and taunt us. You've stumbled through a rift, eh? I bet you'd like to take these little beauties with you, now wouldn't you? Well, if you decide to take them, getting out won't be anything like getting in. Good luck. Yeah, I'm not going to try to mimic that laugh. I'm not busting out my Skeletor impression so soon. So these challenges give us a little bit of a route that we need to run through. A gauntlet of sorts, so long as we can pass the movement challenge, which we've already taken some damage. Luckily, this is at the beginning of the game and we won't get hurt too much. Dodge roll through there. Get another jump through here, and we are ready to go. Normally that would be a wall jump opportunity, or a floor slam opportunity, but we do not have the room that we need to get through there. We'll have to take the upward route instead. That got us through just fine, but we are still a little bit damaged here, so I'm gonna bust out that use of that health potion real quick. We'll get refills in between levels. And the beginning of the game is easy enough that I shouldn't have to worry about saving that. Get that. Go through here. And we have another upgrade scroll. These are very important for us because they all give us stat bonuses. That's generally how you're only going to beat the late game enemies, if you keep stacking as many of those as you can find. With the way builds work in this game, you want to prioritize damage, so that usually involves taking one skill and upgrading that as much as you can. I'm interested in the other options here, but none of them are in the color that we like. That other room down there is blocked off, so we don't have a way to get to that spot. Instead, we'll go back up top here and keep going forward. Get you on fire. You'll see there's an exclamation point before any of our enemies attack. That's a pretty obvious indicator, so even in the midst of all the chaos, you should be able to read an enemy attack and know when to dodge it. Get that firebrand out there. And we've reached the end of the level at this point. We can't head any further forward because once again we're blocked off by one of these statues. And we don't have a way to move through them yet. So the next level we have on this route is the ramparts. Oh, and there's a secret to the left over here. A little bit of money for us. And the ramparts will be the next level that we end up in. Which personally has one of my favorite music tracks in the game. We weren't quick enough to hit the 8-minute mark to get in there, but that only gives us a couple of extra equipment items. I'll prioritize that second health blast just to make sure we get through this first run as well as possible. Gold reserves because it's cheap, and from here, let's just unlock any of the other cheap items that we can find. I'll go ahead and pick these up. So now we have a blood sword, which does less damage, but it creates a damage over time with a bleeding effect. The other weapon would be our Sparta kick. Let's not lie to ourselves. We don't have any items that score critical hits, do we? So far, no, so we'll instead pick one of the brutality mutations again. That'll be just fine for us. This fountain restores our health flask anytime it runs out, but we'll get less and less of it on future playthroughs. The difficulty for this game is somewhat exponential, I'd say. They give you fewer and fewer healing items while also upping the difficulty of the enemies. The music here is absolutely wonderful, one of my favorites. Here we have one of our next unlock mini-bosses. But our Spartan sandals should kick him against the wall repeatedly. And that'll make for a very easy fight there. This is the customization room. And that allows us to make the custom mode, which determines what seed we use, what equipment we can find, and a number of other modifiers. Instead of always playing this game the same way. The Spartan sandals would be very good for us in this level because so many of the enemies are positioned near walls or next to cliffs. Knocking them off or knocking them into a wall does extra damage. Knocking them off of a cliff generally will result in a kill. Give you a few slices, come over here and do the same. We'll throw that trap down to trap the elite enemy here facing away from us, where he can't hurt us. Of course, we'll have to move out of the way, given that one of those little birds came to attack us. We can't sell those items yet, so we just have to keep cutting our way through. That's going to be our only source of gold. Lots of enemies here, but with some careful maneuvering, and the use of those traps, we'll be just fine. That is the very long elevator, and so that would actually be our level exit here. But I'd rather us scavenge for some upgrades instead. That will make sure we're prepared for the fights to come later. A few more slice and dices over here. And that was a bit of a foolish jump, but luckily we had a platform below us. We're pretty much only going to level up red if it gives us an opportunity to. That will up our damage, which is the most important factor we have. If we keep playing it like that, we might be able to down the boss in only a few hits. The final boss. And any boss in between. See, kicking them into the wall just nearly depletes their entire stock of health. Like that. We'll use the blood sword for groups of enemies that aren't near any walls. We can't go through this level because this one also is blocked off by a wall jump, so we'll have to head our way back up. Carefully make our way through here. And we'll continue right. There should be a few more upgrade scrolls for us to find. kick you off. And boot this guy off. There you go. We'll do the same comedic routine with all the enemies that we have around here. Still not quite enough to get him to fall off the cliff, but it does enough damage for us. Get some extra health here. Normally I prioritize whatever upgrade will give us the more health here. What is that, Kayla? What do you have to say? Alright, this area is mostly clear. We might be at the end of the level here. If you have a cliff with nothing on the other side... Ah, a little bit more. Give you a boot. Ah, we've already found another weapon. That's one of my favorites. The ice shield freezes enemies that you parry, and that will actually get you a better opportunity to retaliate. If you had a question, Kayla, I'm all ears. This is a very pretty game. Graphically, it's one of my absolute favorites. They did a lot of good work with the pixel art. One thing that's very interesting is that all the backgrounds you see are made from pixel art, but the character models that you see are rotoscoped. They made models of them and animated them. Then they basically traced over them with pixel art. Visually, it has one of the best impacts of any pixel art games I've seen recently. Canvas bag. A dusty old bag that someone left here a long time ago. Ah, it just has a radish in it. And a tight passage. The hole in this wall is extremely small. Except for maybe a child. Well, a little bit of exposition there. And a radish. But we're at full health, so we can't make any use of it for the moment. Give you the boot. And because he collided with the enemy below, they both took damage. Give you another boot. That marker right there signifies that we've KO'd 60 enemies, without taking any damage. That will unlock us a bonus item in the next room. We might... I don't think we're gonna need that radish. We'll have a health restore before we get to the next level. That would be the end of the level right there. There might still be a secret on this last tower somewhere. Doesn't look like it. So, now that we've explored the full breadth of this level, we're going to head back down to that very low elevator. We've cleared out the rest of the levels, so we should be fully upgraded and ready to take on the boss. Let's see if we can perfect him on the first time. Get some of those cells, Spartan sandals, a sapphire amulet, and a better grenade might work better for us. It also, if you'll notice, does extra damage on rooted targets, which is the effect that our wolf trap gives. So, if we combine the wolf trap and our infantry grenade, we should be able to finish off this boss very quickly. I'm not going to pick up any other weapons just yet. I think Crow's Foot would be an excellent mutation for us to take, though. So I'll take that upgrade. And we'll pull a few into the next one. I think these might actually be a bit more important for when we get KO'd. Death is inevitable, after all. So here... I wonder if that counts. Deployed skills. I wonder if it counts for the wolf traps. We'll test that a bit later, I suppose. For now, Crow's Foot will be a very good mutation for us, despite the fact that it is purple and not red. Get that bit of health, and we are off onto our first boss fight. Right here is the concierge, who has sort of an erratic pattern halfway through the boss. For those who are experienced with this game, he's the easiest boss to defeat, but one of the hardest bosses to perfect. And we'll see why soon enough. We'll just keep him locked facing away from us with that wolf trap. So after you do enough damage to him, he roars, and then he creates that red shield which damages you if you get close. And that is why our wolf trap will be very useful, because it will keep him at a distance when we need it. But we're going to have to try to dodge every single one of those attacks he makes. Now that we're approaching halfway through the boss fight, he's going to start using that attack, which will hit us from a distance. It's also a little hard to see coming. That one we can't dodge through, we have to jump over that one. While he's roaring, he's invincible to attacks, so there's nothing we can do against him. And now he'll start doing a roaring leap. No perfect for us. He also gradually gets faster over time. It would probably be a lot easier if we had a way to buff our damage against him. Luckily, those wolf traps are one of the best items against him. They prevent him from leaping across the screen. Although your best hope is that they don't expire while he's in motion. Normally he'd be locked into place, but if he does his leap attack while he's trapped, he'll actually start moving if they disappear midway through the attack. And he can sort of surprise you by just suddenly leaping at you from across the screen like that. This gives us the timed room. That gives us an access to a daily run, similar to what we had with Noida. There is a daily run in this game, where it will generate everyone the exact same seed, and so everyone compares their scores and their performance versus each other. That is going to give us a lot of extra damage. I think it might be better to take that than the wolf trap for now. The electric whip, however, will do very little damage because it is a purple scaling item, and we focused our stats into the red brutality instead. You'll notice all of our skills and weapons in the bottom left are colored red. That's because that's the stat they scale with. Hey, short stuff. You made it this far alive, eh? Well, you know what I mean. I'm the blacksmith. I work with the collector next door. So if you got the cells, I can improve your gear. This will be the single most important investment we make in this game, second to maybe the health potion. So, every time we come across the blacksmith, I'm going to invest in him instead. And we'll skip the collector because oh, right. We need to hand him our blueprints first. But we've already spent all of our cells, so nothing more to purchase from him. Are we able to get in here yet? Interesting. That's the DLC area, so for the vanilla experience first, we're instead going to go to the Stealth Village. We're going to go through our first run as simply and vanilla-y as we possibly can make. I don't come here very often, it's full of pirates. Those guys explode when they get near, so we need to be very cautious around them. Those bombs we can actually kick back, but only if we're using a kicking item like that. Those are classified as a bomb-type weapon, and there's a certain few weapons you get in the game that can reflect those. Some of them only bombs, and some of them only arrows. This is where things get difficult for us. Let's not get the attention of too many enemies at once. Luckily, our slicer turret will attract some attention away from us. We'll always be investing in brutality, if we have the opportunity. We picked up that crow's foot mutation because it's going to be very useful for us rolling through groups of enemies like that. It causes a slow effect on them, which will make them less effective with their attacks, so long as we can avoid getting hit by them in the first place. Makes all of their attacking and moving animations slower. This guy sells us food, but I don't think we want any of that for the moment. We're doing quite well on our health supply. I agree, Kayla. This is my absolute favorite game of all time, which is why I was excited to play it. One of the things I was banking on was gathering a lot more popularity, but I underestimated the difficulty it is to gather people around. I was wanting to save this for when I had a larger viewer base to demonstrate it on, but I suppose we can save the best for later. That will be for when I'm playing the more difficult versions of this game. Now we'll need to be a lot more careful, because those pirates do deal a lot of damage to us. Just because we can spare it, I'm gonna go ahead and use that first boost of our potion. We get a maximum of 4 later, which should do just fine for us. We'll throw a grenade down there, which will attack most of those enemies. Kick you into the wall, and deal the maximum damage from that. This this room gives us a treasure chest, which hopefully has an upgrade scroll in it. Now, the issue with not having a shield is it'll be kind of difficult for us to counter multiple enemies attacking us at once. A shield normally gives you a little bit of invincibility from parrying an attack. In this case, though, we'll just have to dodge roll through everyone we see. Having exclusively 2 melee weapons makes this even more difficult. If we don't play our cards correctly, we can land ourselves in a situation where we cannot avoid damage. That would be a setup we could do if we had, say, a shield instead. I think the throwing knife might be a bit of a better item for us, just to give... what do we think? Let's go with the bleeding thing. Let's get rid of the sandals here, since they were mostly useful for the ramparts. Here we have a lore room. A lot of unused items. This game does storytelling in the obviously Dark Souls-inspired way, where they don't directly relinquish to you a story. Instead, they leave a whole bunch of lore breadcrumbs here and there. These letters on the floor have been damaged by the damp conditions. Illegible. The equipment here is top-notch. I wonder what it's doing here. I'm almost sure it's harmless to swallow one of these things. Ah, that gives us a health pickup. How benevolent. We have multiple enemies here, which might be a problem for us. But we can move a few of them off with that grenade explosion. So since we dropped the Spartan sandals, we can no longer reflect those bombs with a kick attack. Instead, we now have a ranged attack because we picked up the throwing daggers. There's a lot of different weapons you can find, and a lot of different movesets you can make out of picking up those different items. And trust me, there's a lot of them. So we won't have any shortage of interesting stuff to watch here. What's giving that freeze effect? Ah, it's the grenade. All the items you pick up have slightly different modifiers on them, and they will always be randomly generated. Some of them will synergize with each other, others not so much. but the freeze effect on that grenade will be very useful. If we toss it into a crowd that has a few weak enemies in it, then it should help with clearing out the tougher ones. There's our first key, and we should be about halfway through the level now. Guess which color we're gonna pick? Another pirate. But, because of our crow's foot effect, when we dodge through them, you'll see we leave the little spikes behind us. When we do that, we're going to slow down the enemies that we pass through. Yeah, it does kind of hurt that the character is expressionless, but I think they've done a lot of good work with his animations in-game. Very expressive when he does his shrugs or his thinking emotes. As homage to the animated trailers, though, there is one skin you can find that gives him the same colors that he has in those trailers. Nothing of use for us here, so we'll skip that shop. I absolutely love both of the animated trailers myself. A lot of personality behind them, and they really sell the game's sense of humor perfectly. Toss a grenade in there, throw down a few more knives. We'll pick the one that gives us the most health at any time. Just because if we're not getting damage, we just want a little bit of extra survivability. Now those bombs, which I am just now learning, can't be rolled through, so we'll have to jump over them. This is the door that will take us to the exit, but we can't use those teleporters yet. Instead, we have to find our way around and look for a different door. That fanfare means there should be a chest close to us, probably above. Slice and dice. How very nice. Oh, the shield icons near some of those enemies indicates that we should be close to a legendary item up here. And lo and behold, it's another knife. Those worms teleport after us, unfortunately. Once you clear out all the enemies, you're able to access the legendary item that we have here. But now I'm thinking. Extra damage to a burning target, and shots leaving a trail of flames. I think we have a very interesting synergy here. If you pick a legendary item, you can actually use two of them. So let's go with both of them as knives. With this, we should be able to stay at a distance, because as we use up the ammo for one knife, we can switch to another. And normally you get the ammo for the knives back after a time, or if you kill the enemy that they're stuck in. You don't have a limited ammo supply necessarily, but you do sort of exhaust your clip until you kill something or until you wait a little bit. Here, we have a slightly hidden rune. You see, it doesn't show up until you get close. Otherwise, it stays pretty well hidden. That up there is that treasure chest we're looking for. That big expressive eye would definitely be hard to portray with a pixel art style like this. So I can't blame them for not going through with it. A lot of their story and art direction, if you listen to the devs, they didn't really know exactly what they were going to be doing. A lot of decisions were made during development. In fact, it was originally planned to be a tower defense game, which is where a lot of the turret weapons like this come from. They were originally planned to be turrets for a tower defense. If you look at a lot of the promotional art that they made during development, a lot of it has absolutely no relation to the final product. But they all similarly have that sort of dark fantasy pixel vibe that they kept with the final product. So they sort of ad-libbed the development of this game as they went on. Hey, you there. I work for the blacksmith. I can patch up your gear for cheap. I'm not really supposed to be here. Let's just keep that between us, okay? This guy is who we talk to whenever we want to modify our weapons. But, as it is a roguelike, the upgrades we get are going to be random in nature. But we have plenty of gold to spare, so let's upgrade these as much as we can. I think that's a perfectly fine set of let's change this one a bit. That actually works very well for us. The arrow stuck in enemies come back effect will apply to the throwing knives. So we'll throw a few knives, and if we still don't have any of our ammo back, we'll toss a grenade. That guy gives us modifiers, but we only have a maximum of 3 that we can put on. So we're going to skip him. We already have our maximum here. This is personally one of my favorite zones, the clock tower. Music here is also one of my favorite tracks, but I'd still say it's maybe only number 3 or so. Just for the sake of it, why don't we turn that up a bit? But just the music. You've actually done some pixel art, and facial animations are difficult. I have tried experiments with game development myself, and similarly have analyzed a lot of old fighting games. I'm a very big fighting game fan. That's why you saw me playing Guilty Gear on Sunday, and why I'd be playing a lot of fighting games on this channel. I took a look at a lot of the older fighting games that still had sprite work, you know, old Street Fighters or King of Fighters. And for me trying to make my own custom sprite work, there's actually a very limited set of head angles you can make at such a low resolution and still get readable expressions. That's actually one way that Street Fighter's success happened, was they were able to render facial expressions on their characters. A lot of games happening beforehand would give you a mostly faceless protagonist to deal with. Street Fighter 1, and to a bigger extent 2, were the first games that people were able to actually read faces quite well on the sprite work. We're going to take this little teleportation here, and that guy is going to do a lot of attacking. Luckily, if we slow him down, he should be a bit less horrible for us. But those guys always attack a few times. You'll see they do multiple slashes starting with a leap. I'll roll through here, and give a few knives. If we roll through that first attack, the crow's feet will place, and that will allow us to get behind him while he's slowed. Can we hit these bells? We can! Alright. Hopefully I don't forget before we finish this level. Ah, you disappeared. That enemy will show up on a different floor, around here somewhere. Like there. Another thing that I'm just now noticing. Look at the timing. Here is me using just my first knife. But if I use my second knife and alternate, you'll see we're able to throw a lot faster. That's another advantage to us carrying 2 of the same weapon. So we'll use that to cut through our enemies. The knives also have a bleeding effect. Let's see, what do you do? Extra damage to a frozen target. We don't have any freezing effects, so that won't be very useful to us. The tonic is nice, though. But I don't think we'll be needing that either. The knives we have cause bleeding, and the bleeding effect in this game will damage an enemy slowly over time. But if you stack up bleeding enough times, then you'll actually be able to do a lot of damage at once to an enemy. This is why it's important for us to spam as many knives in a short time frame as we can. That will enable us to probably kill an enemy a lot earlier than you'd expect. Watch. Not on him. We'll wait till we get to one of these guys. These guys have a lot more health than the other enemies. You'll see his health bar go down a little bit at first, but then suddenly drop once it gets to about halfway. Right there. It got to about halfway, but then we got enough bleed stacks on him that they all invested their damage at once. Even more damage if we use our turret, which also causes a bleeding effect. We don't have the key for there. And we were out of our dodge, because we used that a moment ago. That's another reason why shields are very important. You essentially get two dodges. One is a parry, the other one is the actual dodge. Pick that up. That's a little bit of money for us. There's an enemy over here. So it's important to keep fighting as many enemies as you can and clear out an entire biome, because it gives you gold, but it also gives you more cells, which you use to unlock upgrades. On my main account, I've already collected every upgrade, so I don't really need the cells there. But here we're in for a very interesting challenge. We won't have a fully upgraded forge from more than 200 hours of streaming playtime. So, our 5 BC runs here might be harder than what I'm used to. We might not have the upgraded weapons we'd be looking for. We'll dodge roll through that. Get you before you have a chance to disappear. And no enemy over here. That's a nice little interrupt. Noted. Faces are very hard to draw when you only have a few pixels. In fact, most of the pupils you have to draw will only be 1 pixel. So you have to be very good at conveying the direction that your character is looking with such a low number of pixels there. We got damaged again. That was actually an amazing decision to pick both of those knives. We're able to take out most of our enemies from a distance. This will be very useful for the next boss, who shows up at the end of this level. This should be getting us near the top, which would be the end of the level. We'll pick that. Pay attention to these bells, we'll need them in a moment. I'm going to try to unlock as many secrets as I can in the time that we have. See if I can go for maximum unlocks per run. So tell me, Mark, you were here for both Noida and for Dead Cells. Are you a fan of roguelikes? Or perhaps Metroidvania specifically. Not that Noida's a Metroidvania, but it has a very similar setup. This is another lore room here. Something in the tubes there. Research notebook. The bodies immersed in the latest solution are changing less quickly. I must extract the essence of the solution and apply it to other volunteers. Volunteers? I don't think I'd volunteer for an experiment like that. Even I'm not that mad of a scientist. You know, Scientists are, or mad scientists are usually codified to a few specific personalities. I'm in the vein of people like Dr. Eggman or Dr. Wily, who work mostly with machines. Engineers of a sort. So don't be scared, I don't plan on experimenting on flesh and blood. This is a higher damage version of the other knife that we have. Both. You know, I understand that. Both Metroidvanias and roguelikes are among my favorites. I do personally have interests in game dev, and I'll let you in on a secret. That's actually why I started this channel, so I could try to get more networking with other people looking into game dev. The name Turing, which I use for the VTuber, is actually named after a programmer. You might have gotten the idea so far that I liken myself to be a good programmer, and I'd hope to try some game design as a hobby in the future. Metroidvanias and roguelikes are among my favorites. And it's from playing games like Dead Cells that I try to study more mechanics to steal. Take inspiration from, I mean. Now what's important for us, we've already KO'd all the enemies here. We need to take a quick look through the level. You remember those bells? I don't think there are any down here, but I'll take another look just in case. I don't think there's anything down here. Nope, no bells to be found. Look at those background aesthetics too. Absolutely beautiful. If you haven't noticed it yet, the sun has a dappled effect if you look at it through the windows. I can see when I move slightly, there's the sun rays coming through. Let's see, I know we usually get 4 towers out of here. Yeah, 4 total towers. This one bridges off into the second one. So we are going to have to look in each and every one of those towers. First one should be in this room. Listen closely. We'll turn down the music just to make that a bit easier on us. I don't know how to signify the pitches of each of these tones, but that one sounds to be lower middle. I'll learn how to name notes, you know. C, G, A, E, the first 7 letters of the alphabet. So that's the one for that tower. There should be one in each of these, in some of the early rooms. Probably upward from here. That is what we're trying to get into. This is a large room which will probably also house a bell. Or not. Not there. What's up here? That is the actual end of the level. So the first one on the right was somewhat in the middle of the pitches. That one is much higher. I think the next one we're looking for will be further down in this tower. See if there's one in here. If not, they both might be left in the tower on, well, the left. Take that teleporter, and the first one we're looking for should be in this room, usually above where you teleport to. Seems not. We'll check downward a little. Nope, that's the teleporter. That's a dead end. And we have quite the silent climb going up here to the next room. Here is one of the larger rooms that should house a bell. That one's definitely the highest pitch one, but there should be 4. So where's that last bell? Is it further up this tower? This looks like a big enough room for it. Alright, so now we found all 4 of them. I think that very first bell that we found is the lowest pitch that we'll need. The one on the rightmost tower. If we can find where it was. Further down, then. It'll be close to the teleporter room. Yeah, that is definitely the lowest pitch bell that we have here. And then second, we'll ring the second lowest pitch. Next, I believe, is the one in the middle. Make our slow journey downstairs. That one's higher. I wonder what notes those are. I have been doing research into music myself, so hopefully in time I'll at least be able to recognize a note just by hearing it. Maybe I'm not that crazy about music. Or maybe I am. Watch me change my last name to something like Beethoven. Does that sound pretentious enough for you? Naming myself after famous dead guys. And that is our final and highest pitch bell. Which, as you see, drops a key for us. Take our slow route up through here. And there is the room we need to unlock. So that little 5-minute detour unlocks us a new shield. One of my favorites, and in my opinion, one of the absolute best. It was here that takes us to the last room in the level. Now, somewhat different from a lot of the other biomes in the game, this is the only boss room that sort of makes sense when you consider the biome that comes before it. Here we have the clock room for a boss fight. I'm going to invest a bit of gold in here, and then start going towards the random starter items. We'll upgrade that knife, and reroll its effects a few times. But it's not going to give us what we want, and we spent all of our money looking for it. We have a wonderful stat spread of 1555 here right now. And here we find our second boss. The Timekeeper, who's going to immediately rush at us and start trying to kill us right off the bat. Oh right, that's going to be a problem without our own set of... That's why we used the grenade. We wanted to get those back. But so far she's already halfway down on her health. That's due to all of the bleed damage we've been stacking. And that is over in just a snap. That's because we've been building all of our stats towards the same color, as well we picked up 3 different items that all give bleed damage. You can see the knife still popping out of her at this time. This won't end well. And then she leaves, without a word. She must have important business somewhere else, or somewhen else, given that we're surrounded by clocks. The Nutcracker is one of my favorite items, but we're currently in a brutality run. We will skip both of those items that we have there. And now, we're already getting close to the end of our first run. You see, normally you're expected to learn, and die, and learn again. But I've already done all of my learning that I need. Any cells that we can give there, we will. And we'll need a lot of them over time. Lots of things to unlock. Let me know if you like this game, this being one of my favorites. It's definitely a good one for me to pop out for a stream anytime. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen. The final level. Hold on, let's take another look at that. It's just absolutely beautiful, isn't it? All the little candles flickering. And the rats scurrying about. We'll turn the music back up since we're no longer listening to bells. Over here... Oh, wow. We probably have some much better items we can use. The balanced blade might be better for us, might do more damage that we'll need out of it. So we'll swap that in for now. I agree, Kayla. Even if this isn't your type of game, it's a really fun one to watch. Lots of action to be found in it. Get our health pickup, which we will use on survival here. From here on out, they'll be roughly even with each other. Get another floor slam, roll through there, head back up through our routes here. Now, High Peak Castle, I'm sure you've learned that every single level has some gimmick going on with it. For this one, once we get these enemies out of the way, you have these colored doors that you find scattered throughout the level. This one being blue, of course. There's 3 different colors, blue, green, and red, pretty simple enough. And each of them has a boss fight within. Luckily, we're at a distance that we don't really have to deal with this guy. Oh, well, we're out of knives. But luckily, we had a weapon for a close-range engagement. A knife that lights people on fire. It sounds very dangerous, doesn't it? Get a few slices in there. We cut through that boss pretty quickly, so it should be pretty smooth sailing from here onward. That guy will be a problem for us because he draws you in with that attack. Also, his big 2-handed sword there does a lot of damage. So we want to make sure we're never hit by it at all. This will lead us to a blue door somewhere else in the castle. If we look at our map, there's going to be a whole set of other routes for us to see. The white door here is probably a lore room. There's a strange taste to the food since the old cook was offed. The hand just doesn't seem to mind though, so I hold my nose and dream of custard. They feed you little bits and pieces of story here and there. The hand is above the king's suspicion, which is more than I can say for the giant. Though I secretly hope he's okay, we've not seen him in a while now. Examine here. The king is convinced of the existence of a plot against his life. While such a plot may have cause to exist, I've no evidence of it. Worse, the food hasn't been up to standard since he had the cook executed. King size. I suppose that's his portrait right there, just above our heads. And what looks to be a picture of some guy in the hood. Probably the collector, with knives stuck in it. So evidently someone didn't like that collector fellow. And there's a portrait of the knight that we saw at the beginning of the game. And another one of... I have no idea who that is. No matter. Please do not interrupt me while I'm taking a drink, thank you very much. I was not expecting there to be enemies immediately on the other side. So the guys with the spears are also a problem, because they can hit you through walls. They will also hit you vertically through walls. If I stand up here, he's gonna take a little poke at me. Pick up that health, and travel back down through here. Is that the scream? That's the scream right there. See, we're slowly being pulled in, and that's why we need to keep our distance from him. Ice bow. Interesting. I rarely ever use that weapon. I don't think it has much use. There's a portrait of one of our little engineer friends that was helping us. If you look at the map, we're back through a place that we've wandered through before. So we're going to skip that, come back through here, and do the same over here. We'll wait for him to stop, and then come back in with a few knives. Which will do all the damage that we need. No need to bring out our sword there, either. We still haven't found any other colored doors, so we'll go to the parts of the map that we skipped. The ones that would be after the door we walked through before. We'll just run against this wall to make sure we don't get involved there. Throw a few more knives, and dodge again. Get a few more slices there, and we're going to want to avoid all of those bombs. You can't dodge roll through them, they count as, well, bombs. You can't exactly dodge an explosion now, can you? You have to be far enough away from it when it triggers. We want to try to use our balance blade a lot here, because that will stack up critical hits, which will be very useful against higher health enemies. Ah, what a pain. Nothing up here. And we have another boss fight, but this time against two of these guys. Easy enough. We can maneuver around them pretty well. Once you rack up enough hits with that balanced blade, it'll start doing full damage to enemies. Although now, we have found ourselves a legendary bow. You'll see that has a solid 8,000 DPS versus the balanced blade, which maxes out here at 3,500. So this bow should be able to carry us through the final boss quite well. And you'll see, it's going to one-shot most enemies that we come across. Only issue is, it also runs on ammo. But the multiple Nox bow is one of the best weapons in the game, and it's one you have unlocked from the beginning. It fires 3 arrows all at once. Pick that up. And even though the purple Nox bow is the triple Nox bow is a ranged weapon, since we found a legendary one, a normally purple weapon now becomes red for us. It scales off of our highest stat. There's that blue door we came out on the other side. Now we can finish the level like this, but I think we want to look for that green door. That will have the last enemy for us. Head through here. And here we go with the third boss. But our bow should make quick work of him. Only about 5 shots necessary. And against the larger enemies, we only need 2. So that boss that comes after this should be easy as cake. Easy as pie. A piece of cake. Pardon my malapropisms. Easy as cake, piece of pie. Yeah, that definitely doesn't have the same cadence. That is probably a better turret for us. Definitely. So we'll take that to replace the other one we've had. Although after that, we should have all the equipment we need to take on the final boss. Let's see. Where haven't we traveled yet? Seems we found everywhere that we can access with our current set of upgrades. You can see sort of a ghost of a room off to the top up here, and then another one down here, but we're not able to access either of those yet with our current set of equipment. Now we need to find the exit, which will probably be further in this direction, given that this route still hasn't been explored yet. We only need 2 keys to actually get to the final boss, but the third one unlocks a secret little room for you. Tonic is nice, but the infantry grenade we have there is a lot better. Now, between all of those spikes there, I'm gonna let you in on a spoiler. We definitely can't pick up that boomerang just yet. We're going to have to defeat the final boss first. And here we are, our very first run. Hopefully everything goes smoothly in the fight up ahead. What do we unlock with these cells? I think next we'll want to have a shield at the ready, so we'll unlock that first, and then go for recycling, which allows us to sell items that we find. Keep up our gold a little bit during our run. Upgrade the turret, and I think... there we go. Everything should be ready to go. Full health, full flask. So here it is. It's only been 48 minutes into this playthrough, and we're at the final boss. But that's only if you know exactly what you're doing. Well, that looks like that king fellow. And this is his protein-guzzling bodyguard. Well, we're dealing very significant chunks of health just with our bow. We're gonna have to do a lot of dodging to get around those attacks. Next phase begins. We're gonna have to clear out some of his little flunkies here. Throw down our turret, and for the most part, we're just gonna have to be running around and throwing as many arrows as we can get. we want to avoid those bombs. And he's already at half health. If you find the right weapons, these boss fights can be over in a very short amount of time. We'll take care of the enemies down there first. That is the attack we very much want to avoid. Oh, I didn't even know he could turn around for that one. Charging up his big attack, and he's gonna slam down in the middle. Almost there. And we're done. And here is our first boss cell. Pick that up because that is a very useful skill to have. The symmetrical lance here, of course, is what we'll need. You see, our buddy here, the king that we very much don't like, or so we've heard, you can't attack him with other weapons. And there's nowhere else for us to go here. This door is locked. So we only have one option now, do we? And so, lo and behold, the king is dead. And credits roll. Well, there's dead cells. But I'll have you know we're not done yet. A game like this punishes you by making you play through it more than once. Oh look, there's a little mushy green guy from the beginning. We'll wander our immortal little butt over here and exit stage right. So, do you like the game? Because we're not done with our time with it. Huh, the starting room here is different. Where's Old Bones gone? There was a skeleton there at the very beginning. We now, after we've beaten the game once, have unlocked the homunculus room, which will allow us to detach our head to go find puzzles or pick up items. Like this one up here. I'm gonna try. I think we actually have to get close to there first. I can't remember how I got that one the first time. But up here, there's another item for us to find as well. Don't hesitate on that jump. Let's see if we can try to get ourselves up through there at the end of our jump there. Maybe this will let us get through this little puzzle. Or not. There's some way to solve that, but I have yet to remember what it was. We might have to get a jumping upgrade to go through there. And here is where we upgrade our difficulty. You going to bed, Kayla? Alright, I'll see you next time you show up for a stream, Kayla. I'm glad to have had you here. Now we upgrade our difficulty and go in for another run. This is very cool, I agree. It's still my absolute favorite game of all time. I'm going to say that every time you mention a compliment towards it. It's already giving us the other tutorial notifications even though we've beaten it. Let's go with a shield this time, and an amulet. So here, we didn't have this hole before now, did we? Ah, right, I'm gonna need that DLC in order to play through that content. It should be free though, but we'll pay attention to that another time. For now, let's see how far we can get on the next difficulty. This is going to be a little bit higher, but it's not going to be too different from the very first one that we had. The main difference here is that we only get an occasional full health upgrade. Good night, Kayla. I'm glad you came here to the stream. This time around, let's go with survival. Try to see if we can focus more on using our shield for this run. Now, parrying with a shield in this game actually does damage to the enemy that attacks you. There's some shields that do even more damage on top of that, like the punishment that we unlocked from the clock tower. That's one of my favorite shields because it does a damage in an area of effect around you whenever you parry. We still can't use those teleporters yet. We'll also find a few new enemies. This guy didn't exist before, did he? And some of the weaker enemies that we have around here will be permanently replaced in future runs. Now, normally I do play with shields, so expect a lot of parries whenever I have one. Let's pick up that carrot. We're gonna need it. Now I think about it. Here's a cute little setting they added. You can determine what sort of food items you find. Let's go with omnivorous. Go for finding whatever the heck we want. Now, the Toxic Sewers is the second of the first levels that we unlock. You'll notice down here we had this little green vine, which normally we had to unlock the extra rune for in order to go through it. So now we have more routes to travel through with the levels. Already went up through there. Let's traverse as far as we can in this direction and see if there's any other items for us to pick up. Block. Oh, and another pickup. And this will be the second power-up scroll that we find in this level. Every level has a certain predetermined number that you'll be able to pick up, and there's always 2 in the first level. That rusty sword isn't going to do us too much good, so we might want to replace that very, very soon. You see that? That's a parry right there. That's 3 parries. Here's another one. The rats are also new. And they are a pain. They often attack in swarms. Go through here, give a few more slices, parry that. The good news is that no matter if it's a projectile or a bomb, a shield can parry those, both of them. Oh. Good heavens, I think that's the knight that we talked to at the very beginning. She's dead. And it's recent. Oh well. Look what I found. Might as well just loot the corpse. She's not going to be using that stuff. I think we have everything we could need from the beginning. Let's go through the toxic sewers here, since that's the different route for us to take. With the little flags having Mario pipes on the end. Now, if I remember, there should be a secret on the side of one of these pipes. We might have already missed it. It seems we already did. We'll have to be there on a second playthrough. No upgrades either there for us. But a lot of extra weapons we've picked up. Now, since we're going on a survival playthrough, we'll need a survival weapon. And I'll see if I can pick up a few of my favorites here. While we're focusing on survival, we'll use what is normally a survival weapon anyway, but in this case, it's still another one of my favorites. I love big weapons. You saw me playing Gold Lewis. I love big characters with big damage. Here, I think, for now, our best idea might be counterattack. We're not going to need to restore too much health too frequently. And there, we only had a single health flask recharge, not a full fountain. So we're going to be a bit more scarce on healing for this playthrough. Hey, you, come here a second. A little slow, but you seem to understand what I'm saying. I lost my rune, so you see, I'm a little stuck. And I need my rune, you see. You wouldn't mind finding it for me, would you? See, he still has wonderful little expressions with so few pixels. The thumbs up and the chin run. Oh, thank you. It's somewhere around in these sewers, on your side of these bars. Bring it back to me, quickly. Block. And we have a wonderful effect on here. Victims slow down all nearby enemies when they die. So when we slice someone up, if we're in a crowd, that's going to offset the slow speed of the weapon. Normally that's the weakness with the survival-based weapons. They're slow, so you're going to take extra damage from all the enemies around you. That extra slow effect, though, will give us time to reposition ourselves. Slice and dice. Ah. We can't use those teleporters yet. We'll also ignore the kebab for now. We're going to be investing everything into our survival stat this time. Get a slice. And we haven't found any skills yet. There's one up there, though. You'll see that rat was slowed down by the area of effect slow, so that means if we run into a crowd and start slicing and dicing, you'll see that slowed down their attacks that we were able to dodge around them. A dodge in many cases will be better than a parry if they're slowed down. Otherwise, it might be hard to get your timing right. Aha. Get our little health upgrade here, which will still invest in survival, even though the other way we would have gotten an extra 50% health. We'll inevitably find some scrolls which only let us upgrade our first two stats, so we're still going to invest mostly in green for now. Green is a very important and very beneficial visual color. I think I'm speaking a bit too quickly for myself. Now, what's up here? Another lore room. But we can't get into it from this angle. Find our way down here through these pipes. And that is not something we want to step in. Remember, if it's green and glows, it's bad. So you'll see that everyone's slowing down after we start slicing. It makes all the subsequent enemies a lot easier to dispatch. That slow effect is going to worsen the more that a single enemy is applied, or the more it's applied to a single enemy. That's not going to be a problem with us with all the small mobs around here, but if we find, say, a boss surrounded by a bunch of smaller enemies, it might give us some trouble. But don't get complacent in the slow effects. They do lessen over time. That's to stop you from, say, grinding out an entire boss with slow effects. But for a few enemies, it's perfectly valid. Now, all of those bombs dropped by that worm are also parryable. It's a bit hard to get all of them, though, since they spread out and explode at nearly the same time. You have to parry the individual ones. Let's not get ourselves too hurt now. But while we still have the universal scrolls, we're still going to up our damage as much as possible. I think we get a fountain in the next area, so I should be okay to use a charge. However, I'm gonna backtrack for a little bit of kebab. Guts, apparently. They have slightly different icons, so this one should be oh no. Since we have an omnivorous diet, we'll find different sets within the same level. It doesn't just set it to something different per level. You'll get a randomized amount for every single level that you come across. I thought one of those might have been a full 50% health restore, but they're both the small food items. We'll still have to be careful then. Right here is a unique enemy that spawns two little crystals on the side. Both of those protect him from taking damage, until we destroy them. Ah, there's an ice bomb in there that we could use, but it's out of our reach for now. We'll climb our way down to this corner. Yes, he can parry any projectile, including apparently poison spit. Now, after I start attacking enemies, you'll notice I'm usually rolling instead of trying to get out another parry. That's just because it's more difficult to time when they're slowed down. I actually do my parries listening by ear rather than by the visual cues. There's a specific sound effect every time an enemy attacks, and I've conditioned myself to the timings at this point. If the enemy's slowed down, it's actually harder for me to deal with. As good as the Frost Blast is, we'd rather have a shield. I'll take the grenade since that's a skill and that's not going to interfere with other effects. Although here, I'm going to buy a tonic instead, which gives us a temporary health buff. Now if we take damage, it's not going to count towards our regular health. But only for a short time. That generally will let you survive longer if you're taking lots of damage at lots of different times. You can't rely on it, though. The effect is pretty short compared to its full duration, and its cooldown. So when you fire it off, expect to wait a very long time before you can use it again. Now here, we found our first scroll that gives us a red and a purple stat instead of green. So there, we're going to use that to upgrade our health since we can't upgrade our survival damage. The ice grenade here is another green weapon, and now you'll see we've decked out our entire inventory with green weapons. Those will scale off of survival, and they will perform best if we all use weapons mostly of the same color. They try to shoehorn you into certain playstyles somewhat. Aha, there you are. It's here. My rune is just a little bit further on. How many cells do I have? I'll have to look that up real quick. We just started our playthrough tonight, so... What? Not at all. Nothing to worry about. After coming this far, you'll make short work of all that. So, off you go. At the moment, I only have 56 because we just started a completely new file. We beat the Boss Cell 0 fight a little bit earlier, and now we're beginning our Boss Cell 1 run. Oh wow, you really get stunned for a long time. And here on our second playthrough is the teleportation rune. This allows us to teleport at all these monoliths that we've been seeing around. Now that we're out of there, we'll talk to this guy again. Oh, he's gone. 63 cells now. That's the ramparts, but we should have a few other options right now, shouldn't we? See what other areas of the level we have yet to explore. And we can't head up there because that will require a wall jump. Which, again, we still do not have yet. Over there towards the beginning of the level is a teleportation spot. This will probably just give us a skill or a weapon, though. Indeed, more knives. And we haven't unlocked the ability to sell them yet. Travel our way back to the end because it doesn't look like we're able to go anywhere else. The ramparts for now are our only option. Let's see, what's our route now? Next we'll want to go to the Twilight Sepulchre, I believe. After you get the teleportation rune, it's going to be a bit before we can show up at the spider rune, which will give us the wall jump we're wanting. Ah, still not enough cells for that shield. We're almost there, though. The tonic we can expect to have for a long while. Now that we're here, we're not dipping pretty low in our health yet, so... I think the bit of parries will reduce the cooldown on our tonic, and that's what we're looking for. Although that tonic is only going to help us after we've taken a bit of damage. So for now, it's only going to help us while we start freezing enemies left and right. Back to the ramparts we go. Now, the frozen grenade is just going to make a lot of those fights easier. Especially when you need to make an entrance. It'll hold an enemy in place, and from there we can go ahead and attack them, and trigger the slow effect that we have on our broadsword. With survival weapons, one of my favorite strategies is to do the first attack in your combo, so that you have access to the more powerful later hits as you drop down on an enemy like that. With the broadsword, it's especially useful. The first hit doesn't do that much damage, but the second and third both are critical hits, and they deal about 1.5 times the amount of damage of the first hit. Like there, we have a one-shot on most of the enemies that we can land a clean second or third hit on. Some of the tougher enemies will be able to tank the first hit. So far, not much parrying, huh? I think I saw a room there. Was there? Doesn't look like it. Ah, right, it's the RAM room that we need next. I forget where you find that. Those guys are going to be a problem. Their explosive bolts can't be reflected back, if I remember. They only explode when you parry them, which will block the damage, but won't return to sender. Another tonic, but that one's the same level as the one we're carrying. Roll past here, hopefully hit you before you do any shield shenanigans. And with those freeze effects, we get very easy setups for second and third hits in groups of enemies. This is honestly why I like doing survival mode a lot. Or the survival builds. High damage, and that requires you to be a bit more patient with your planning. Now that we found another upgrade, we're going to use this for our tactics level up, since we can't level up our damage through survival. The wolf trap, that will be very important for the next boss fight, and I think for a while, we can actually get rid of the tonic. With us having the cooldown setup, and 2 different weapons to trap our enemies and make sure they don't even hit us, we might not be taking that much damage in the first place. With all these slow effects abound. And especially since we're going to keep stacking them up like that. See? Easy. Slip behind you instead. Nothing personnel, kid. Freeze you so we don't have to deal with you. No enemies up here, so we're ready to continue to the next part of the level. Gateway through here, and we should be approaching the end pretty soon. Get that third attack set up. Toss a nice grenade down here, which I would have hoped would have hit the zombie. And that is our 60th kill without taking damage. That's why we abandoned the tonic. We're really not getting hit here. Oh, frostbite. That will be very useful for us. I think we'll try to unlock that after punishment. The leaves usually signify that there's a spot you can roll through, but it seems not there. Frostbite is a very useful DPS supplement on any of your freezing builds. Usually what my favorite to go for is some sort of a survival build with freeze, and I set up Frostbite for the extra damage. Block that. And take this next scroll of power. Freeze you so we don't have to deal with you. Slow you. Yeah. We can't return those to Cinder. If we parry the explosive bolts, we'll just end up causing an explosion in front of us. Now, it might damage them if they're close. That Moonflower key we cannot get now. We can only do that once we get to 3 boss cells. Expect me to be playing this game a lot. We'll climb around the tower up here. There's still a little bit more left in the level to discover, and we cannot make that jump. So we'll go around, and now we're right back where we started. We probably could have found another teleporter really close, just up ahead. Another lore room, I don't know if I've seen this one. Oh, well. Certainly can't make much use of that one. Ah, it's more of an Easter egg. You'll see the Hollow Knight painting there in the middle. A whole collection of insects carefully classified and lined up in nice straight rows, and classified by type, and by size, and in alphabetical order. The person who worked in this office was certainly thorough. Research notebook. All the species found in these areas seem change. Was it the insects that spread malaise all over the island? We'll take that plunge. We know there's a brick floor beneath us. We cannot bust our way through there yet. Where is that ram rune? I forget. We'll need to make sure we don't miss it. Jump over there, do our maneuver, and that way we won't take any damage. Now, over here, we have a bottomless pit. Or so you thought. That gives us the Nerves of Steel, which is an interesting purple weapon to say the least. You'll always find that secret with the invisible floor at the end of this level, the furthest right side. No way we're getting down there, so our only option is down to the Black Bridge. We haven't taken damage, so we don't need any health restores. Do a roll in midair and then try to do another ground pound, but it seems I waited too long. There's some very interesting movement techniques in this game. One of my favorites is rolling out of a floor slam, so that you don't get that slam animation at the end which stops you. Obviously the golden amulet here will be our best choice. That gives us 2 survival points. Unlock a few more items here. Let's get that punishment shield. Well, thank you for showing up, Markiverse. I'm glad to have seen you here. I'll be playing this in the future, and there's definitely more Noida later this week. I'm still not sure on the days yet, but I'm glad to have had you around. I hope you sleep well. Get some recycling done. That's in the game, I'm not referring to you specifically. But please do recycle anytime you have an opportunity. Frostbite will be important for us, so we're going to make our investments now. We can also start selling our items. What do we have next? I don't think any of these are particularly useful to us, so we'll go with Instinct of the Master of the Arms. On full health, so no need to use a flask. And here we are once again at the concierge. This time, let's see if we can do this without taking any damage. But you'll notice now, since we're on a higher difficulty, he actually has a different attack pattern. Get him in a freeze, so that we don't have to deal with him there. And while he's in that wolf trap, we won't have to worry about his red shield. You'll notice I parried when he did that leap attack. We want to make sure that we don't get hit by it. Get another wolf trap out. And there we go. We have perfected the concierge. And this time on only our second playthrough. All we needed to do that was just a lot more damage. This nutcracker does slightly more damage than our broadsword, but more importantly, it has a synergy with frozen enemies, which I actually might take later. We're not freezing too often, and while we have the guaranteed slow effect on the broadsword, I think we'll want to keep that. Now, since we perfected the boss, we get a legendary weapon. I think that'll do just fine on the damage. Let's replace our ice grenade. Oh, right. The hammer would have done extra damage versus rooted targets as well, so we might have had a really good setup if we kept that, and the ice grenade. We'll reforge this modifier so you don't get the extra damage from it. And all of the cells that we have available go into the forge. Another blueprint for you, but nothing else. And no more mutations or the need for a health fountain. Now, the Stilt Village. Let me look this up. I need to make sure I know where I'm getting the Ram rune. Just so we can try to optimize our playthroughs as much as possible. Ossuary. Okay, so we will have to get that on our next playthrough regardless. For the sake of keeping things interesting, let's head up here to the alternate route here. The Fractured Shrines is one of the most difficult biomes in my opinion. It comes with a very high difficulty spike right after that first boss. Although the music here is also wonderful. Those crows tend to show up at random intervals, and they do damage to you. They will be a problem for us. There's also a lot of traps on this level, and as you can guess with all the floating islands, lots of bottomless pits. Bottomless pits don't destroy you in this game, but they do cause you to take damage. Damage you don't want. That is a guaranteed health shop, so that is where we can buy ourselves some health restoration. But as it stands, we're currently full on everything we need. Now that punishment shield we picked up, we'll deal extra damage in a radius when we parry. You'll see I parried that projectile, but it also hurt the ranger enemy that wasn't firing at us. You'll see there's a circle that... pay attention, there's a lot of traps in this stage. Right there on that pressure plate. Hard for me to see. I was monologuing again. Now in here, I believe, we find our first cursed chest. I'm willing to take some risks today. We definitely don't care about that blood sword. But we will take the extra scroll, and now we'll have to be very careful. Because those cursed chests, make sure that we die in one hit for the next until we slay another 10 enemies. And those crows don't count. Even though they can still very much kill you. Any source of damage is lethal for us now. Just barely got that parry. Nice tree. They did say they added more lovely scenery to the area. We're going to try to play with some cautious parries and engaging enemies only one at a time while we're cursed. Inspect. Oh, there's a corpse there with a cultist outfit. And another outfit. That's the one from the trailers. Slice you. And now our curse is alleviated. No harm done. And all it takes is a little bit of caution. You can't break through those yet. So next time we die and respawn, or if we beat the boss this time, we'll need to head to the ossuary, which is accessed through the Promenade of the Condemned, so we'll have to go through that first area again. Huh, that looked like that would have been an exit, but that's just an arch. Parry. So that's why the slow is a bit of a problem for us. It's going to make it difficult for us to get parries with the offset timings. We're still not taking much damage, so we're not going to need that tonic. Maybe if we find one before the next boss. Oh, these guys. Oh, right, we have to jump over that one. And he has a very wide reach. Let's, mitigate that damage real quick. Jump over that. Parry that swing. There we go. We're still doing okay for ourselves. In here, we find our choice of a guaranteed legendary item. The traps are going to be more important than the damage. But that does more damage on a successful parry. What do you think we should take? The grenade, the turret, or the shield? I'll make that decision in a moment. That is another shop in there. Now from the center point, we have 4 branching paths off of the big center building right there. Parry. You can also parry the traps. That's a very important thing to know. Slice and dice. No enemies up here. Strange. This looks like another room with one of the guardians. Now they almost always alternate attacks. I wonder if we stand at a distance. No. He won't just do the X swing. Alright, duly noted. He'll only alternate attacks. Oh, I think I know what this is. This is what I've been looking forward to. Letter. I was hoping your people could help me, but they don't recognize me anymore. The apostate's hideout isn't far. I don't know what kind of welcome they reserve for strangers in need of help these days. Maybe this wasn't what I was looking for. Looks like just a lore room in here. I'll take some more health potion, we're gonna need it. As I said, Fractured Shrines is one of the more difficult areas in the game. There's still a little bit we haven't explored over here, so let's take a look. Parry the birds just cause we can. And it seems there's nothing to be found under there. Just more of a gauntlet to a— oh, that tree is floating. I didn't notice that the first time. I don't know what's to be found in that shop. Probably nothing interesting. Oh, there's another room. With money inside of it. I wonder if we get the bonus radius damage of the punishment off of that. If we parry a trap. I suppose it applies in every circumstance. Well, if I timed my parry there better, that would have worked. And that let us get rid of the shocker over there without even getting close. Really good for crowd management. More bombs. We're not gonna need those. And now we finally have another health upgrade. Mostly we... Oh. Look at the rain. I actually didn't know there was gonna be platforms here. You'll see there's little bits of rain hitting the invisible platforms in front of us. I don't remember this secret. Come on. There we go. Problem solved. Travel our way through another gauntlet. Ignore him. Fight that serpent, parry you, and continue. Another place blocked by a guardian. See how much damage we can do before he turns around. And that is exactly why those wolf traps are important to us. Lots of blood splattered on the walls. This is what I was here for. Was it you? Was it you that freed me? You smell like rotting flesh, and bloodlust, and a lack of respect for life. But don't think I'm going to follow you around from now on. I'm just going to follow you from now on. We could have a lot of fun together, if you remember to treat me well. You know, I don't think we need the grenade. Because we have our little sword buddy now. And because he's a sword, we can use him as a faster weapon. Get that parry. Come over here, do a few more slices. And for style points, take that crow that has been following us. Use his parry damage to attack the enemies around us. Another wolf trap. This one is better. Roll up through here. Now, the Serenade will attack enemies on his own, but if you swap between using him as an equipped weapon and using him as a pet, he'll extend his duration and give critical hits. But let's be honest, who doesn't want a talking sword? Take care of this problem. And it does an exceptional amount of damage if we alternate like that. With that, you can have some very interesting weapon setups. He replaces one of your weapons when you re-equip him. Or she, or it. I don't know what the sword's pronouns are. It's a little dehumanizing though, so I think I'll just go with he for now. That is currently the default for most people when you don't have knowledge of a creature's gender. what? Oh, there's an upgrade. And the crow's going to attack us the immediate instant we become vulnerable again. There we go, falling off the cliff. And with no sources of help. We'll have to be very careful. But that right there is the end of the level. However... Oh, that's weird. There's no teleport icon down there. We're going to head back to that shop at the beginning of the level to buy us a little bit of health. After all, we have 17,000 gold, that's what we've been saving it up for. We'll have to take both of those. Now I think it might be good for us to try to look for a tonic to pick up. If the next few challenges are going to be difficult for us. We cannot go to the next level that we find over here, because we don't have the cultist outfit equipped. We're going to need that for our next playthrough. Condemned to protect our dead. The wardens will recognize their own. So we're going to need the cultist outfit when we come back there the second time. We did pick that up earlier in the level, so we're prepared. That leaves our only next level option as the clock tower. No 60 enemy door for us. But I do think we'll want to keep that serenade. The cultist outfit will definitely need unlocked, so we'll get that first. And then get our very important little sword boy. Now we have the next health blast unlocked, so we're gonna want to get to that next. Our legendary serenade does a lot better for us, and if we wanted to meme... Oh, we can't use... Oh, hold on. Let's wait for the other cooldown to expire. I wonder if we can have two of them flying around us. I've never found a legendary serenade before, so... hopefully there's no issue with having two little sword boys. Give him a 5, 4, 3. Well, let's see over here. Nothing important there, no more upgrades to be found. You know, I think we're gonna be staying with this. It is a very silly setup. Oh, what's this? Where's this take us? The Forgotten Sepulchre. Well, I did say I'd like to have a variety in the levels we experience. I think that's going to reset our sword boys, so we're not going to have them equipped. There we go. Talk to Miss Spider Lady here. So this is the anomaly she's looking for. You've come a long way down beneath the surface, Fallen One. Dark is the path that you have chosen. The light of the Guardian monoliths will guide you. But for how long? Behind you, that light just there. So yeah, those are what we need. This is one of those avoid the darkness sorts of challenges that you find in a lot of games. We can't stay too long in this purple miasma, but as we pass by these lamps, they'll light up and they'll protect us. God, that mummy is being an issue. Okay, so that's an interesting premise. If we use the regular serenade, that will make both of the floating versions able to get their crits that they need. And there's another one. But that's normally a red weapon. We're looking for the two that we have that conveniently scale with green. And that will give us a lot of damage and a lot of health. We're already gonna die pretty quickly. Might as well. Although I'd hate to squander this opportunity. You know, we technically can just leave the sword boys to attack. We'll pick up that firebrands for now just to give us a ranged attacking option. The sword is a bit too slow for us to score some KOs that we'll need. And we cannot go that way. We'll get this lamp real quick. We need to get to all of those lights as frequently as we can, to make sure we don't die in the darkness in between. No path up here, so it looks like we will be forced to go through that gauntlet. Wish me luck. Well, that's easy. Now, what do we have over here? The locked door. And a teleporter. There we go. That resets both the cooldowns on our sword boys. Be very careful. Be very evasive. And just try to leave fire behind to do the work for us. Now, we definitely don't want to keep these firebrands after that. We'll re-equip our sword boys, and now that we've expelled the curse, we're going to make sure we have that two-hander back. Pick that up. Firebrand isn't a very good weapon in most circumstances, though if you have a build that uses a lot of fire damage, it's wonderful. Say, an oiled sword, for example. Head our way back down through here, and there's a scroll off to the side that we will want. We'll take that little bit of light since we made a mistake. I think we actually have a lot more time in the darkness than it might look, but I'd like to err on the side of caution. At least here. That's the first of the keys that we'll need. Simple way back out. And that should unlock our first door. Simple and straightforward, we have another big room full of darkness for us to go through. And a lore room. Research notebook. The bodies have woken up again. In this darkness, I can no longer continue my experiments on the Malays here. Those rooms are set up to where you find them in the middle of other passages, but you often find a door leading to no room on the other side, as a consequence of the level generation. Activate you. And now both sword boys get to go to town again. Very. Might want to avoid the big zombie guy. He looks like he does a lot of damage. Mummy, I suppose, but I'll let you in on a hint. They're still referred to as a zombie in the game files. Or by the game's own naming system, I should say. There's some light. Which sword are you? Get back in my backpack. There you go. If they can both score a critical hit, they both reset. That's an interesting idea. Use the one that has a lower timer as our current melee weapon. And that is why we want to avoid those guys. They do a lot of damage. I know most vertical slam attacks in this game can't be parried, so that's just going to cause us a lot of trouble. We want to very much dodge roll out of the way of those. Ooh. I think a freezing shield might do some better for us than a punishment. Who's our next boss? Clock Tower. Let's keep with it. I think Clock Tower's our next boss. I don't know that we can access any alternate routes just yet. Okay, so a lot of enemies we want to take care of first. And while we have that second sword equipped, we can't parry. And we'll miss our parry both times in a row. Well, I'm going to call it a night there. We did manage to get through the first run, the Zero Boss Cell run, on only one life. Now I think we'll be trying for BSC 1 run soon enough, but these do take a while. We might only have time for, say, 2 or 3 runs a night, depending on how successful they are. There will be a lot more Dead Cells on this channel, and more Noida to come. I do want to stream tomorrow, but I don't know what I plan on streaming just yet. Let me know. You can follow my Twitter or leave a comment on my videos, and please do subscribe if you want to see more of my channel. Thank you. You've all been a wonderful class tonight. Dismissed.